Last summer, Anime Expo was held in Los Angeles. The festival brought together more than 100,000 fans of Japanese culture, or more accurately, the entertainment industry built around it. The central role in this industry is played by Japanese animation, or anime. Its fans dress up as their favorite characters, socialize, watch performances. In short, everything happens just like at the famous Comic-Con. Japanese anime is a global phenomenon. Not only do trailers for major titles, that is, anime series or films, gather nearly as many views as trailers for the most anticipated Western shows, but anime films themselves can earn hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. The highest grossing feature film from the Demon Slayer franchise earned more than $500 million worldwide, with a budget of less than 16 million. That is the level of Venom or massively popular animated films like WALL-E or Kung Fu Panda. And notably, only about 10% of that revenue came from Japan itself. But even more telling is the fact that many people who grew up in the 1992 and early 2000s still remember series like Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Sonic, and others with genuine warmth. These shows became just as important a part of global pop culture for geeks around the world as American cartoons, TV series, and video games. Still not convinced? Here are the numbers. Anime and manga are the third most common reason American young people decide to study the Japanese language. I am not going to play the role of a typical mythbuster and repeat obvious statements like anime is not just stupid, violent cartoons for children. You can see that for yourself. Instead, in our cult content series about iconic phenomena of mass culture, I will explain how Japan managed to create its most powerful cultural weapon, anime, and what its real secret is. You're watching Histories Omitted, where stories don't just get told, they finally get explained. Online, memes often circulate claiming that anime is a direct consequence of Japan's nuclear bombings. While this is obviously a joke, pre-war Japanese animation really is little known, and there are reasons for that. For comparison, around the same time, Japanese cinemas were screening works by European and American pioneers of animation, and their level was incomparably more advanced. The first commercial Japanese animated works began appearing in the late 1910 seconds. Even those, however, could not compete with fully produced Western short films. And when, in the late 1920 seconds, Walt Disney entered the scene with Mickey Mouse and introduced synchronized sound, Japanese creators felt doomed. That was when a major sponsor stepped in, the state. At first, this took the form of government commissions for educational cartoons for children, a genre that still exists today, known as Kodomo. But in the early 1930 seconds, a quiet coup took place in Japan. The country effectively came under military control. There were no revolutions. Japanese society had simply been saturated with militarist propaganda for decades. As a result, the population unquestionably supported the army, even when its actions contradicted the civilian government. The military had enormous resources. With the start of aggressive military ventures and later World War II, it needed even more propaganda. Most animation of that period became exactly that propaganda. More peaceful anime still existed, mostly focused on mythology. But until the atomic bombings and Japan's defeat in the war, nearly the entire industry served the military machine. Even the first full-length animated feature, Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors, 1945, was produced on commission from the Imperial Navy and told a heroic story about liberating Indonesia and Malaysia from the Americans. Nothing was made about the atrocities committed by Japanese soldiers in occupied territories. Even today, such topics are heavily censored, but more on that later. As you may have noticed, anime from the 1940 seconds and even the 1950 seconds looks nothing like what we imagine today, where the huge eyes, dot noses, and exaggerated emotions. All of that appeared only after the 7-year American occupation of Japan ended. That occupation brought American comic books into the country, fundamentally reshaping the creative vision of local artists. Manga Japanese comics had existed before, but after the war, they experienced a massive boom. Since then, most anime has been based on manga. At the same time, the distinctive visual style was formed. A lack of resources and experienced animators forced Japanese directors to economize heavily, borrowing and simplifying Disney's techniques. Hence the large eyes, which made facial expressions easier to animate, and the often static poses. The first modern anime were Astro Boy and Sazae-san, released in the 1960 seconds. In the 1970 seconds, and especially the 1980 seconds, anime began developing rapidly and learned how to sell itself properly. The production chain was classic. Studios produced content, distributors sold it, and TV channels broadcast it. To reach the widest possible audience, marketers created distinct categories for boys, for teenage girls, for older youths, and even for adult women. At the same time, unique genres emerged, such as mecha anime featuring giant robots. Gundam was one of the earliest and most iconic examples. Each of these branches had its own rules, standards, and cliches, largely incomprehensible to Western audiences. But by the late 1980 seconds, Japan's economic bubble inflated, studio budgets skyrocketed, and at the turn of the decade, at the twilight of Japan's economic miracle, the industry produced something that shocked foreign audiences. The 1988 feature film Akira was not only one of the most expensive and technically advanced anime of its time, but also the most successful on Western markets. Before that, Europeans and Americans had access either to fan-dubbed VHS tapes or to extremely limited theatrical releases with terrible dubbing and heavy censorship. Western animation was generally considered children's entertainment, and usually was. And then this appeared on screen. Unsurprisingly, Akira earned $1 million during its first limited US release, and over $1.5 million in the UK. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were likely very disappointed that they had declined distribution rights 2 years earlier. Beyond money, Akira brought Western audiences a love for Japanese animation and even the word anime itself. Previously, cartoons from Japan were called Japanimation. The 1990 seconds are rightly remembered as the decade of the anime boom. After Akira, foreign audiences gaijin began watching Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Evangelion, Pokemon, Ghost in the Shell, Miyazaki's works, and countless other titles for all ages and genders. Anime captivated both teenagers and adults. It influenced not only audiences, but creators as well. Thanks to Akira, Western viewers owe not only countless references to the iconic motorcycle scene, but even shows like Stranger Things in their current form. Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue inspired Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream and Black Swan. Western animated series like Avatar also draw heavily from anime. In recent decades, anime has ceased to be a niche hobby in the West. Millennials never really grew up and happily watched cartoons in their 30s and 40s. Since so many foreigners now watch anime, it's worth asking, what exactly is being shown there that fascinates them so much? Japan is a country with a high standard of living, low violence, and advanced infrastructure. Anime fans know this because almost every anime conveys exactly that impression. Miracles happen in modern Japan. Anime also introduces viewers to local customs, both ancient and modern. While watching anime, viewers learn how school lessons work in Japan, what summer weather is like in Okinawa, how fireworks festivals are celebrated, where to go in Tokyo in the evening, and how much a taxi costs. Anime fans, or otaku, as the Japanese say, see Japan from many angles and often fall in love with it. Why does this happen? Because the visuals are almost always beautiful and enticing, but not always truthful. First, negative aspects of life are simply ignored. If the setting is 1990 seconds or early 2000s Japan, then crime, school gangs, and corruption appear. Modern Japan, however, is about cherry blossoms and shy girls in short skirts. This kind of escapism is popular even among the Japanese themselves. I already discussed escapism in my video about psychopaths. Foreigners, however, consume this especially eagerly. For many, anime becomes their primary source of knowledge about Japan. Creating content about unpleasant realities is simply bad marketing, and studios know it. Locals are tired of what they see every day, while outsiders want a magical world unlike their own routine lives. Anime's optimism is reinforced by the Japanese concept of ganbaru, moving forward despite difficulties. Taken to extremes, this mindset can become toxic, treating any dissatisfaction as mere whining. Anime often reflects this. There are realistic and brutal anime, sometimes even repulsive, and some sell decently. But decently is the key word. You won't find them topping sales charts. The Japanese industry mainly produces comfort entertainment. Comfort entertainment must be pleasant, enjoyable, and effortless. Secondly, even anime that touches on social problems often turns criticism into light satire. Take corporate culture, for example. Many imagine Japanese office workers working 16 hours a day, sleeping at work, eating there, and dying at their desks. Anime romanticizes this. Yes, you give everything to your boss, but look how fun it is to drink with colleagues afterward. Yes, the job is miserable, but let's enjoy the small things. Add an attractive coworker who inevitably shows romantic interest, and the picture is complete. The effect on the viewer is similar to The Office, except working conditions in the US or UK are far less severe. Sometimes the irony becomes disturbing. A character dies from overwork and is reborn in a fantasy world where they can finally rest. To Western viewers, Japan begins to resemble a magical land where fiction becomes reality. This is partly true. Anime is only part of a much larger industry. Merchandise alone accounts for 30% of distributor revenue. More than a quarter comes from arcade machines and live shows. Collaborations are everywhere, especially in Tokyo's Akihabara district, where it can genuinely feel like stepping into an anime world. Locals say it takes 2 or 3 days just to see everything there. This creates the effect of the Japanese dream. Just as some young Russians or Brazilians dream of New York after watching Sex and the City, many Americans dream of moving to Japan. If the American dream is a school cafeteria lunch, a car at 16, pool parties, and a 6-figure salary, then the Japanese dream is a small tatami apartment, bullet trains, bento lunches, ancient temples, and heightened attention from the opposite sex. Japan has many real advantages, but anime exaggerates them and hides the downsides. False nostalgia plays a role, as does the desire to relive the experiences of characters we identify with. At the same time, Japanese media often contains subtle nationalist undertones. Censorship is one example. Publishers were forced to remove manga pages depicting the Nanjing Massacre, where the Imperial Japanese Army killed tens or hundreds of thousands of Chinese civilians and prisoners. The government did not ban it. Distributors simply feared public backlash. Other war crimes rarely appear in manga or anime. Instead, viewers see innocent Japanese soldiers and civilians, especially children, dying in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japanese soldiers are almost always portrayed as heroes or victims. There are also fictional stories where Japan resists evil occupiers, sometimes created by real ultranationalists hostile to the West. Most global audiences ignore this. Overall, the image of Japan remains overwhelmingly positive, the result of the same mechanism that made the U.S. a cultural hegemon. Inspired by anime, Westerners flock to Japan to teach English. Many quickly become disillusioned. There are no subtitles in real life. Foreigners are often treated not as equals. Police scrutiny is higher. Corporate trust remains limited even after years. Limited Japanese proficiency restricts services. Bureaucracy is intense. Tattoos can bar you from gyms, pools, and hot springs. Outside major cities, everyday xenophobia becomes more visible. Life may be good, but it never quite matches anime. Yet foreigners keep moving to Japan. This is soft power. The concept was coined by political scientist Joseph Nye. Soft power is indirect influence shaping preferences rather than forcing outcomes. Instead of invasion, sanctions, or coups, a country becomes a model others want to emulate. Culture, technology, values, and prosperity attract people. They invest, migrate, and adopt value-strengthening influence without bloodshed. This process is long and costly, but often happens organically. Entertainment industries seek profit, not propaganda. Science, technology, and political ideals also play roles. Japan lacked military influence after World War II, so it relied on culture and technology. Anime, manga, food, games, music, fashion, all combined under the brand Cool Japan. Japan ranks in the global top 5 for soft power. The anime market alone is worth $23 billion today, half from overseas. By 2030, foreigners will spend $30 billion annually on Japanese culture. Studios earn billions, but working conditions are brutal. Anime production is a conveyor belt. Hundreds of titles air each season. Only a handful truly matter. Animators earn little, work excessive hours, and suffer health issues. Outsourcing dominates often to China, Korea, and the Philippines. Even full episodes may be animated abroad. China and Korea are emerging competitors, but Japan remains the dominant global force, culturally open, wealthy, and experienced. Anime remains Japan's most powerful soft power weapon. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with friends interested in Japanese culture and anime. A new video is coming very soon. Bye.